Coming up, Karen shows off her treasures from a trip across the pond earlier this spring and how to pick and roast peppers from the garden to enjoy all winter long. And Ella shows us an easy fall arrangement guaranteed to get your home ready for autumn. That and more next on Mid-American Gardener. Hello and thanks for joining us for another episode of Mid-American Gardener. I'm your host, Tinisha Spain, and joining me in the studio today to talk about all things gardening are two of our panelists that you know and love, Karen and Ella. But before we get into all the stuff that they brought to share with you, let's have them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about their specialty. So Karen, we haven't seen you for a while. Welcome.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Karen Ruckel, and I live over in the Peoria area, and my qualification is I'm Ella's friend. So
that's your ticket, huh?
Yeah. I love houseplants, perennials, shrubs, annuals.
Everything.
Gardening.
Gardening, period. All right, Miss Ella?
I'm Ella Maxwell. I'm a master gardener and a horticulturist, and I have a large yard, and I like trees and shrubs and perennials.
Okay, a generalist. You two are kind of into everything, really, right?
Yeah,
bit of everything.
we love everything, don't we?
Yes.
All right, let's jump
Especially
in.
cooking related.
Yeah.
Cooking related? Yes. Okay, so Karen, we'll start with you. You took a trip. I don't want to tell too much about it, but go ahead and share about your travels, and you've brought some pictures too.
Yeah, I brought just a couple pictures, but yes, I took a wonderful trip this spring with my husband, brother, and sister-in-law, and just wonderful trip over to England, and then we got to see some different sites there, and then went for a little bit over to Amsterdam. But I have this elevated gardening vision of English gardens and the English countryside. So for me, it was quite exciting. And for years with my love affair of that, years ago on a PBS gardening show, they would always have these gardening trugs, and they would put all their gardening produce into them. And so years ago, my husband mail ordered this from England, and I just thought going over there, I would just see them all over the place. And I guess it's kind of like, if we went outside and we tried to get some boiled peanuts on the side of the road around here, that's not going to happen. That's down near Georgia. And same for them, it's more in the Sussex area. But I would say my favorite part of the trip was Sissinghurst Castle. Mm-hmm. And just was beautiful. And what it also made it very special to me was I got to see a English trug in the garden being used, and I covet mine so much that it doesn't go outside.
I was just going to comment how clean and pristine it looks, and I was like, I don't even think she's got that thing dirty
no,
yet.
I can't get it dirty because I like it so much. So at Sissinghurst Castle, I got to see an English trug, and I picked it up, even though I probably shouldn't have been messing with their gardening things. And then I sat at a table and pretended and looking out thinking, this was my garden, and the trug is down there on the ground, and I contemplated that, here's my estate.
And this is it. This is where you'll retire and spend your days.
Yeah,
Lovely.
so, and the reality is that for my gardening, I use something like this for collecting some of my, especially like my cherry tomatoes, because I can leave it outside, and I don't have to worry about ruining it. So instead I use a 25-cent thrift store basket instead of my beautiful handmade wood trug.
So it's just eye candy, huh? It's just you're gonna, where does it sit at your house? Does it have a home, a very special coveted place?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
It's kept in a closet because my cats like it as a bed. So yeah, it's
the cats can't even sit in it. It's that beloved, huh?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Well, very nice. Thank you very much. We'll come back to you in just a second. All right, Ella, we're to you.
Okay. Well, my very good friend Karen brings me her beautiful basil. This is Cardinal Basil. It's known for its late fall flowering. Usually basil has small white flowers kind of extended on the stem, and you want to pick those off so that you get more of the leaves that you want to use. But she brought me a beautiful container just like this, more than a month and a half ago. And so here's the new one. Here's the one that I've been picking off, and it actually rooted. So some of you that have basil, if it's conditioned properly, just cut it now before a freeze or frost would take it down, and you can enjoy it inside and have it available still, you know, for pestos, using it fresh with tomatoes and balsamic vinegar and just oh yes, delicious. So this is a very potent, kind of a little bit stronger, and these little calyxes here in this flower are edible, but they're kind of strong.
Strong as in intense basil flavor,
Yes,
or strong in
yes.
a different way?
I think basil flavor for sure, but also just a little bit more bitter than I care for. So maybe it'd be perfect for someone.
It's beautiful too. That's and that plant is really healthy. So will you keep that and kind of munch on it all winter long until?
Well, I would, well, you can see this one's kind of like a caterpillar ate it. Well, that was us. So
You're the caterpillar.
I'm not sure how long it's really going to last inside for this late summer. You know, we're probably still caprese salad and all kinds of things and eating it up right away. And so I'm hoping that we don't get a heavy frost, and maybe Karen will bring me one more big jar of beautiful basil.
Just one more jar.
In 2 weeks. I'm putting in my order now.
It's getting very specific. At first it was maybe, and now it's 2 weeks.
Yes,
All right.
There we go.
Excellent. Okay. Karen, we're back to you. And before we talk about your next pictures of your favorite plants, thank you so much for the cannas that you sent me. They bloomed absolutely. I had the best time just watching them and the different colors and the heights. And so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I really, really appreciate it. And you've got some more photos of some arrangements that you really liked.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about things that give you joy. And for me, 2 plants this summer gave me lots of joy with how they performed, how beautiful they were, and they were annuals. And I love annuals because I love the pop of color. And so in my yard, I've done in containers this Sun Impatient. I've got 2 colors in this arrangement, a red and kind of an orangey. And they are the series Sun Impatience, Vigorous Red and Vigorous Corona. And they just outperformed themselves. I just loved how full they were. I've got them in my yard. They are under tree, you'll see, but they get good morning sun and they get late afternoon hot sun, so they still get a lot of sun even though they are under a Japanese tree lilac. And they just, for the money I spent on them, they were excellent. I did have one planted in the ground. I wouldn't say that they're overly happy with my heavy clay soil. That plant is small. These other guys in nice potting soil are huge.
Those are some very big blooms.
Yeah, they are very big blooms. So the other plant that just gave me so much joy this summer, it was the Suncredible Saturn sunflower, and it is a Helianthus hybrid, so it's not going to be a perennial, but the flower power has been fantastic. And this is a series that was brought out originally. The original series that came out, Sunbelievable. Oh my gosh, I spent such a premium on one plant for my mother-in-law one Mother's Day. And thankfully this spring, I found at a local Urbana nursery, they had some of this Sun Incredible in a 4-inch pot, and I think it was just under $5. So I've got this huge, beautiful, blooming its heart out through the whole summer plant. So I'm just really thrilled with how those 2 annuals gave me so much joy and so much flower power, and had to be watered, but
yes,
they're beautiful.
Right.
Especially this summer, holy smokes.
And with Karen's, you know, love of this plant and seeing it in the garden center, the Town and Country Gardeners of Washington chose it for their planters on their square. We have a square in town that, you know, you drive around, and we have 6 planters, and we planted one of these hybrid sunflowers, Sunbelievable or Suncredible or whatever, with, I think, some sweet potato vine. So the sweet potato vine went over the side and cascaded down, but this literally filled the center. No deadheading required, no maintenance, one plant.
Wow.
It was amazing. We had some lantanas in there, and they kind of got overrun.
Well, I do deadhead mine just because when it's flowered a lot, there's a lot of brown buttons in there, and I just want it to put its energy into more flowers. So I do tidy it up.
I bet with the sweet potato vines, that was really striking.
Oh, I think it's been the best year ever. And usually we always rotate with choosing something different, but maybe next year we're going to do it again.
Since it did so well.
I did.
Why not? If it ain't broke, right?
That's right.
Okay. All right, Ella, we're back to you.
So it's getting that time of the year with pumpkins, and there's so many cute things with squashes and pumpkins. And so a couple of things that I brought was, this is a little decorated pumpkin. It's a living pumpkin, and it has succulents. These are some ground cover succulents and some also tropical succulents. But what I did is I just took some container and I just trimmed some tips off of different things, but you have to let them sit for about a day so the cut end will suberize. Then you choose your pumpkin, whatever it might be, and you put, you just glue, and the glue that I used is, if you have never bought this glue, you need this glue. It does everything.
It does.
It's called E6000. So
brand endorsement.
Oh yeah, maybe not.
No,
okay.
It's okay. I was
But
just teasing you.
also, there's some clear gel tacky glue too you could use, but this works really good. And you just squirt a little, put this on top. If you want to give it just a little bit more, some Spanish moss, and then we're going to just start gluing things, you know, into the top here.
You know, when I first looked at that, I thought you had opened it up, cleaned it out, filled it with potting soil, and then put the succulents in there.
No, and then what you're going to do is after it's dried, it does need some water. So at least once a week you need to water it, and I found the easiest way is to just put it in the sink with your sprayer and then just let it sit out again. So the moss here will hold some moisture. These can sometimes actually root, but this little pumpkin is a gift for you, and it should last all the way to Thanksgiving.
That is gorgeous.
Now, if you do set it outside, you have to be careful because sometimes, Karen can attest, squirrels come and they just chew out a little hole because they want the seeds. And pumpkin seeds, you know, are edible. So that's called a pepito, right?
Pepito.
Pepito. So these are shelled pumpkin seeds, but there is a new there are pumpkins that are hull-less. So this pumpkin right here is one that's grown commercially for its seeds that doesn't require shelling. They can be taken out, and I opened, there we go. Open this up, and here's our flesh and our seeds. And these seeds can just be rinsed, salted, and roasted, and then
in you go.
Eaten.
Down the hatch.
Down the hatch. So these right here are those kinds of seeds. So there's only a couple varieties that are hull-less, and it just makes it so convenient to roast and eat a raw pumpkin seed without the seed covering.
Oh, those pumpkins are absolutely gorgeous. And now that I know that it's not, you know, such an elaborate process.
Oh, it's not. And
Well,
they last.
Yeah, that's the nice thing is you haven't cut it open. So you're not going to have it molding or gooing down or the black mold coming out and fuzziness all over. So, yeah.
Very nice. And it just takes a couple of cuttings from succulents you probably have at home anyway.
Right, exactly.
Very nice. Okay. All right, Karen, we are back to you.
Well, I know a lot of times we talk about the different stuff growing in your yard and growing vegetables.
Yes.
We talk about growing it, but you know, what do you do when you've got it all? So I wanted to talk about poblano peppers because they're my favorite kind of pepper. And I don't like bell peppers. I don't like the sweet bell peppers. I don't like them in foods. They don't like me. But I found that I really like poblano peppers.
Now, where do they fall on the heat-o-meter?
Well, that's the problem with them.
Okay.
They are all across the board.
Ah.
I planted 4 different varieties this year, and I didn't mean to, but it happened. I ordered from a company a variety, and I got a couple free packets of poblano peppers. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do more. But they are all across the board with the Scoville range, which helps you understand the heat of the pepper. And I've even found that whether or as I'm picking them, the heat seems to change. So every pepper, I'm a little curious, and I'll taste it to see, okay, how hot is this before I put it into a recipe. But I wanted to talk about getting those peppers ready, or if you've gone to a farmer's market and they've got some great looking peppers and you know you're not going to get them in winter locally like that, buy them, get them prepped, put them in your freezer, and then you're going to have them all winter long to use in soups and other recipes. So what I do is I pick my peppers and I do a charring method so that I get rid of the outside skin, the exocarp, but charring off the skin. It's kind of waxy. And so I just do it right on my gas stove and char them up completely. And I wish I could do it outside because it does smell up the house. It takes a day for the house to air out from this.
Oh, I love that smell though.
It's a little obnoxious. But anyway, I've tried other methods. My grill, if I had a sideburn on the grill, that would be perfect. But I didn't. It's so much quicker on the gas range.
So just right on
there. And I am careful. I do use tongs. I don't use my bare hands. I would probably just use her bare hands.
But I use tongs.
Char them up. Once they're all charred, I'll take them and take all those skins off. And some stuff I've said, people say, you know, don't rinse it underwater. Well, you know, it makes it easier. Oh, well, first, after I've charred them, I put them in a plastic bag and actually let them sit and sweat so that the skin will slough off. And then that way they're cooler to handle because right off the fire of roasting them, they're pretty hot. So once I've removed all that skin, then I'll slit open the pepper, remove all the seeds, and then the little veining that's on the inside can be pretty intense in heat, so I'll kind of peel that off. And then I'll flatten it, and then I will lay it flat, and I'll layer it in a multi-purpose sealing wrap. And, oh, he's thawed. But so this is the sealing wrap, and so I've squashed my peppers, so taking up not a lot of room in the freezer. So then that way with recipes, I can just tear this open, chop the frozen pieces that I need off, let them thaw a little bit. But what I do in all my peppers, you just never know the heat of them, is I will always take a little piece of it.
Little bite.
I don't even take a bite. I'll first do a tongue test. Just put it on the end of my tongue and see where the heat is. Then if it's not too bad, then I'll do a bite test and try that out because every pepper is different.
It's good to know before it goes into the chili.
Yes.
What you're working with.
Yes, and when I'm doing them for the freezer anyway, I'll label them. You know, this one is a little hotter, or like the one pepper. This was Ancho Gigantica, and it was too hot. All of them went to my brother, so I just picked them and took them to his house. I got rid of them. Oh, and then also I brought this to remind me.
I was going to ask you.
If you're a little unsure of the heat of your peppers or a little bit worried, go ahead and just put on gloves when you're working with them. Because especially if they are a little bit hot and you have a tendency to touch your eyes, that could be a little burning. So just a pair of disposable gloves and it'll be fine.
Okay. Question, so if you don't use the entire thing once it's thawed, let's say you make a dish and there's half or so left, how long does it keep in the fridge, or do you put it back in the freezer and pull it back out? What do you do with the rest?
I actually put it back in the freezer.
Okay.
So if like I'm doing something and I only need half this pepper, I would have taken them out frozen, chopped off that part because it's not that thick, so you can get through it with a chopping knife pretty easily. And then I'll just throw it back in the freezer.
Gotcha.
With the bag of peppers.
And does this method work with other peppers, all peppers? Do you find some are easier or tougher to handle when they're frozen, or?
Well, see, that's the thing. I only eat poblano peppers.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I've never done it with the bell peppers because they don't interest me, and I can't eat them.
I saute bell peppers and I leave the skins on, and then I just freeze them in individual bags or containers to have fresh peppers. And usually I'll mix in with onions too, so then we have peppers and onions for fajitas or chili or whatever, especially if there's a big influx. But I love poblanos, but they don't make that many peppers on a plant compared to some, of course, the smaller peppers. And those you don't necessarily have to char because they're thinner skinned for something like a serrano and we do not grow habaneros or any of the ghost peppers or those, they're just too hot.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, and see, I even cheat with my peppers because I don't follow the rules where I know I'm going to put a cage for one pepper plant, and it's a skinnier little one, and so typically I'll put 3 pepper plants quite close to each other, and so then I've got more of a cluster to try to get more fruiting, and I probably don't get as good a fruiting because I am crowding them, but I don't have a lot of room. So.
Yeah.
Last
I
question.
like the oh gosh, now I can't remember the name of it. But it's more, it'll turn red. Well, these will turn red too as they'd age too, but there are several different kinds of hot peppers and of course jalapenos are really wonderful too. And those that you can stuff them, you don't have to necessarily take off the skin either. But poblanos and some of the others, and I char them sometimes on the grill, but most of the time after Karen's, good results. Some people put them under the broiler too.
Oh, okay. And does that process, the charring process, is that just to get the skin off, or does that do something for the flavor as well?
It doesn't do anything for the flavor to me. Some people say it adds a smokiness to it, but I do it just to get off that kind of waxier skin, and then having it flattened, then it just doesn't take up any room in the freezer. So.
Right, and they're steamed and pretty much already pre-cooked.
Cooked, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So then you don't have to worry about that process when you're trying to cook your onions and things down. Excellent. Okay. All right, Ella, we are to you, your lovely arrangement.
Right. So I think that it's always important to use fresh flowers. I love fresh flowers. I want to buy fresh flowers, but my garden has fresh flowers and I don't really take advantage of them that often. And so this is just around the counter or around the garden bouquet. So I have some ornamental grasses and some plants that are still blooming this fall. So again, I like some annuals. I never used to, but you can't beat some of the zinnias for fall. And then of course there's turtlehead blooming. I have a tricertis. You don't even have to pick a whole hydrangea. You can just pick off the flower, let it sit in, some goldenrods, some late blooming hosta, obedient plant, and then of course dahlias. The dahlias are still looking really good, and remember that this is a tender bulb that will have to be lifted, like your cannas that you're going to dig up. I'm going to dig up and store my dahlias over the winter as well.
And you know what? That's very seasonal, very fall, very autumn-esque.
Right, right.
Nice.
Goes really well. Enjoy what you grow.
Enjoy what you grow. That's the quote for this show. Before we go, we've got a minute or so left. You went to a trivia night. So
yes, I did.
Let's go. Hit us.
Okay, so I went to a trivia night. All the questions were with plants, arts, and leisure for 50. What George Orwell novel has a houseplant in its title? No one got it. but it's keep the aspidistra flying. And what is an aspidistra? It's the cast iron plant. And evidently in the 1930s in England, in London, if you were a person of middle class
lineage?
Yes, whatever. You had one sitting in your front room in the window, and that was your status symbol.
Interesting.
So in the end, Gordon Comstock gets an aspidistra.
Okay.
Oh, so you read the book?
I read the first 2 chapters and the last 2.
Just enough.
The middle part it's very depressing. George Orwell has a lot of social commentary and also a lot of literary references above my understanding.
Gotcha. Well, you know what? Everyone's prepared now for their next round of trivia. So
That's right.
Ladies,
That's right.
we are out of time. We went to England. We went to your gardens. We talked about fall. We're all hungry now. The basil. This was a really good show.
Thank you.
And again, proves the point that you guys are just excellent generalists who have a lot of knowledge about a lot of things. So thank you for coming on and sharing your time and talents. And thank you so much for watching. And we will see you next time on Mid-American Gardener. Good night.